He raised his daughter believing she was blind since birth, until a quiet maid uncovered a secret so shocking, it shattered everything he thought he knew. What she discovered didn't just open the child's eyes, it uncovered a stolen past. Stay with me, this story will leave you speechless. Before we begin this powerful story, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss our life-changing content. If you find value in these stories, like the video and share it with others. This channel is more than just entertainment. Every story we tell carries a meaningful moral lesson designed to inspire, uplift, and connect us all. Billionaire's daughter was born blind, until the new Maid discovered the shocking truth. I was not always this powerful. I was not always this proud. There was a time when I begged life for a sliver of peace. A single day without regret. A moment without guilt. My name is Marcus Vale. They call me a billionaire now. But I would trade all of it for the one truth that haunted me every single night. My daughter Lila was born blind. Not medically, not genetically, but soulfully blind. As if the world had shut itself off from her. She never cried. She never reached. She never smiled. Doctors said her eyes were fine, but her brain disconnected. Developmental dissociation, they told me. A phrase that cost me $10 million and gave me nothing but silence. Her mother left after 3 months. Walked out with her bags, her freedom, and her youth, leaving behind a broken child and a man who no longer knew how to feel. I threw myself into business, not because I was strong, but because it was the only place where numbers obeyed, where success meant something, where no one asked, "Why does your daughter never look at you?" She turned 4. Still no change. Still no words. Still emptiness. I hired the best therapists. Imported devices from Germany. Rewired the house with sensory cues. But none of it touched her. Until one rainy Thursday, a woman arrived. Not a therapist. Not a doctor. Not another overpaid specialist. With polished shoes and dead eyes. No. She was the new maid. Her name was Anya. Eastern European, I guessed. Barely spoke English. Carried her life in a cloth bag. Thin, quiet, gentle. She cleaned, cooked, folded. Never asked for anything. Except once. 3 weeks after she came. She stood in my office. Hands clasped, eyes trembling. And said, "May I play music for the girl?" I blinked. Music? I had banned music in the house. Lila did not react to it. It only made the silence louder. I almost said no. But something in her face, the way her lips pressed against fear, made me pause. I nodded. That evening, as the rain tapped the windows, she took Lila's tiny hands and hummed. Not just a song. A lullaby. Old, haunting, motherly. I stood at the door watching. The lights dimmed. The air stilled. And then it happened. Lila flinched. Not wildly. Not dramatically. But enough. Her fingers curled around Anya's. And her head. Her tiny head tilted toward the sound. I stepped back. My legs shook. It could have been coincidence. It could have been a nerve reflex. But the next night, Lila turned again. And again the next. Anya never used machines. She never read a book. She simply sang. Touched. Sat beside her for hours. In silence or in song. Lila began to hum. Then tap. Then smile. I did not know what was happening. Until the day I came home early. I heard laughter. Sweet, angelic, impossible laughter. I dropped my keys, rushed to the sunroom. There she was, Lila, standing, one hand on the couch, the other on Anya's cheek. Her eyes were still vacant, but her soul, it was wide open. She was laughing, and then she said her first word, light. I collapsed. Tears poured out of me. Years of pain, of loneliness, of failure. And in that moment, I did not feel like a billionaire. I felt like a father who had just been reborn. That night, I asked Anya, "What did you do?" She looked at me, eyes soft, almost afraid, and said, "She is not blind, sir. She is scared." My heart cracked, not from pain, but from truth. Anya told me the signs, told me what she saw, and then she handed me something that shattered everything I thought I knew about my past. It was a photograph, old, worn, folded a dozen times. The edges were frayed, the colors faded, but I recognized the woman instantly. It was my late mother, smiling, young, holding a baby I did not remember. Beside her stood another woman, darker hair, wider eyes, a scar just below the jawline. Anya, but younger. My throat went dry. That cannot be. Anya nodded slowly. I was there when she was born. I stepped back. My heart thundered against my ribs. She was born in New York, in a private hospital. I was there. No, Anya whispered. You were not. She reached into her cloth bag, pulled out an envelope, a hospital bracelet, a birth certificate, with a name I had never seen before, a different hospital, a different date. And then she said the words that turned my world into ash. She was stolen from her mother. The room spun. The ceiling stretched. Everything inside me screamed. Stolen. My voice cracked, unfamiliar. Anya held my gaze. I was a nurse. I tried to stop them, but I was young and afraid. Who? I whispered. She hesitated. Your wife's family. I dropped to the couch. My hands trembled. They said the baby had died. But it was not true. They took her. Told the mother she had lost her. Told you she was yours. I looked at Lila. So pure. So innocent. And all I could see was a child torn between two worlds. I wanted to scream, to run, to burn every lie ever told to me. But Lila turned toward Anya again, touched her cheek. And in that moment, I knew something deeper than rage, something older than truth. Love. Anya wiped her tears. I kept quiet for years, until I saw her, and I knew. She remembered my voice. I buried my face in my hands. All these years, my daughter's silence was not from blindness. It was trauma, the noise of a world that felt wrong. Since the day she was taken, I looked up. What happened to her real mother? Anya looked away, then whispered, "She is still looking for her." I could not breathe. My temples pulsed. My chest tightened. All the money, all the mansions, all the power. And yet I had never searched in the one direction that mattered. I had never searched for the truth. I looked at Lila, and for the first time, her eyes, though clouded, met mine. My heart shattered and reassembled itself in the space between her breath and mine. "I will fix this," I whispered, "to the very end." Anya nodded. But then she reached out, placed a small, cold object in my hand. It was a locket, rusty, tiny, engraved with two names. One was Lila. The other was a name I had never heard. And beneath that name was a date. A date that proved everything I believed was built on a lie. My fingers closed around the locket. It felt heavier than it should, as if it carried the weight of every truth I had never dared to face. I turned it over slowly. The engraving was delicate, almost childlike, but the names were clear. Lila Grace, Eva Marin, Eva Marin. I had never heard that name before, yet somehow it rang through my bones, like a whisper from a life I had stolen. I stared at the date beneath it. It was 3 weeks before Lila's official birth date. I rose to my feet. Cold sweat gathered at the back of my neck. They changed everything, I said aloud. The dates, the records, even her name. Anya nodded. They paid people, covered their tracks. Your ex-wife's family. They were powerful, connected. But why? I asked. Her voice shook. They wanted to punish the mother, because she refused to give up her inheritance, because she loved someone they disapproved of. I clenched my jaw, and they used my name, my money, my trust, to keep it quiet. Anya looked up, her eyes glistening. They knew you were desperate to be a father. You had just lost your parents. You were vulnerable. They fed you a fantasy, and you believed it. I staggered back, fell into the chair behind me. Every birthday, every therapy, every lonely night by her crib. I thought I was doing right by my daughter, but she had never truly been mine. And yet, she was. Lila was mine in every moment I fought for her, in every story I read by her bedside, in every silent prayer I whispered in the dark. Blood could never change that. But truth? Truth could set her free. Where is Eva now? I asked. Anya hesitated, then opened her bag once more. She pulled out a small leather-bound journal, torn at the edges, stained, but filled with delicate handwriting. She handed it to me. She writes to Lila in here. Every year. She never stopped. I opened the first page, and there it was. To my little light. They told me you were gone, but I felt your breath in every sunrise. And I knew, someday, we would meet again. Tears blurred the ink. My chest ached with guilt. And something else. Resolve. I looked at Anya. Do you know where she is now? Anya took a deep breath, then nodded. She works at a bookstore, in a small coastal town, under a different name. I closed the journal, held the locket to my heart. Lila sat quietly beside the window, bathed in sunlight, still humming Anya's lullaby. I walked over, knelt before her. Would you like to go on a trip? I asked gently. She smiled, nodded, and whispered again. Light. My heart cracked. But this time, it was to let the healing begin. I turned to Anya. Pack what you need. We leave tonight. Outside, the sky was bleeding gold. The world was changing. And somewhere by the sea, a woman named Eva Marin was about to discover that the daughter they said had died was alive. And on her way home, the car engine hummed softly against the silence. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, lined with shadows of trees swaying in the night wind. Every mile felt like a heartbeat closer to a truth I was both desperate and terrified to face. Lila sat in the back seat, her small fingers brushing over the journal, as if she could feel her mother's words. From time to time, she would giggle softly at nothing, and I wondered if she was already sensing the change that awaited her. Anya sat beside her, her eyes fixed on the road, though I knew her thoughts were buried in the past. She carried the weight of secrets that had lived inside her for years. Secrets that had cost a mother her child. Secrets that had chained a daughter in silence. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Guilt burned through me like fire. How had I never questioned? How had I accepted so blindly what they told me? Money had blinded me. Ambition had numbed me. And in the pursuit of power, I had become the very thing I once despised. A man who saw only what was convenient, never what was true. The ocean smell reached us long before the town appeared. Salt and wind rushed through the cracked window, cool and sharp against my skin. It felt like the world itself was preparing to wash me clean. We reached a small town with cobblestone streets and lanterns glowing softly in the night. It looked untouched by time. Quiet, old, safe. Anya's voice broke the silence. "There," she whispered, pointing to a corner shop with a wooden sign that read, "Harbor Light Books." I pulled over. My chest pounded like a drum. Through the window, I saw her, a woman, bent slightly over the counter, sorting through a stack of books. Her hair, long and dark, fell like a curtain around her face. And even from here, I could see the tired grace in her movements, the kind of strength that is born only from years of loss, and the refusal to give up. "Eva," Anya whispered. The name struck me like a bell. Sharp, sacred, final. I turned to Lila, her head tilted, as if she heard something none of us could. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, and she whispered again, so softly it almost broke me, "Mother." I froze. Anya gasped. Tears blurred my vision. This was it. The moment I could not escape. I opened the car door, my legs trembling beneath me. Each step toward that little bookstore felt heavier than the last. The bell above the door chimed. As I pushed it open, she looked up, and in her eyes, in that single devastating glance, I saw recognition, not of me, but of something far more eternal. Her gaze flicked to the window, to the child in the car, to the locket hanging from my fist. Her hand rose to her lips. Her body shook. A whisper escaped her. "Lila." The air between us shattered. I could no longer breathe. Because in that moment, I realized I was about to lose everything I thought was mine. And yet, I was about to witness a love so powerful, so pure, that it would redefine the meaning of family forever. She dropped the book in her hands. It thudded softly against the wooden floor. But neither of us flinched. All I could see was the storm rising in her eyes. 1,000 yesterdays crashing into one single moment. Her lips trembled. Her knees buckled slightly, and she reached out to the edge of the counter to steady herself. "Who are you?" she asked, though I knew she already felt the answer. I stepped forward. My voice came out raw, thick with remorse. "My name is Marcus Vale," I said quietly. "And I believe I have someone who belongs to you." She stared at me, frozen, torn between disbelief and aching hope. I held out the locket first. Her eyes widened. Her hand flew to her chest, to the space where it used to hang. I kept it,
I whispered.
She had it all these years. She took it with trembling fingers, pressing it to her lips, as tears streamed freely down her cheeks.
And then I stepped aside. Anya opened the car door.
Lila stepped out slowly, her small hand curled around Anya's. She walked gently toward us,
each step uncertain, but steady,
as if her soul knew the path, even if her eyes did not. Eva's breath hitched. Her hand covered her mouth, as Lila drew closer. Then, as if drawn by an invisible thread, Lila stopped right in front of her, and lifted her hand to touch her mother's face. The contact shattered the silence. Eva dropped to her knees, sobbing as she pulled her daughter into her arms. Lila leaned into her, resting her head on Eva's shoulder, her tiny fingers tracing the line of her mother's jaw, the same line Anya had once described. With tears in her eyes, I turned away, not from shame, not from grief, but from reverence. This was not my moment. This was a reunion long overdue, a wound finally beginning to close. Anya stepped beside me. She was crying too, but it was the kind of cry that carried peace. We stood there in silence, watching a mother rock her daughter, in the middle of a small bookshop, bathed in golden light, and the scent of old pages and ocean wind. After a long while, Eva looked up at me. I never stopped looking. She said softly, I never stopped hoping. I nodded. There is more you need to know. She brushed Lila's hair behind her ear, then helped her sit gently in a nearby chair.
Come, she said, her voice steady now, firm,
like a woman reclaiming her power. She led us into a back room.
A small table, a lamp, a wall of old photographs.
Anya sat beside Lila. I sat across from Eva. And then finally, with the past behind us, and the future waiting to be written, I opened my mouth to tell her everything, from the lies I was fed, to the nights I wept by a crib, to the guilt that hollowed me, and the woman beside me, who had carried the truth all these years. But just as I began to speak,
the shop door swung open. A voice called from the front. Eva, are you there? Her face paled. Her breath caught. She stood up slowly, her hand brushing against Lila's. That voice. She whispered, her eyes locked with mine, uncertainty flashing in them. Who is that? I asked quietly. She shook her head, stepped toward the front of the store, and then froze. Mid-step, mid-thought. Because standing just beyond the threshold was a man she had not seen in years. A man who should not have known this place. A man who had once vowed to never return. He looked past Eva, and his eyes fell on the girl in the chair. His face went white, his knees buckled, and the first word he uttered was not her name, but a confession. Oh my God, I thought she was dead. Eva's body stiffened. Her hand gripped the doorframe, like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. Lila sat quietly, oblivious to the storm that had just entered the room. I stood up slowly, watching this stranger's face, pale, sunken, aged by years, that looked heavier than time itself. He was tall, broad-shouldered, but broken in his posture. Regret wrapped around him, like a second skin. Eva's voice came low, cold, shaken. What are you doing here, Nathan? He swallowed hard. His eyes flicked from her to Anya, then to me, and finally back to the little girl.
whose head was now tilted, curious, sensing the shift in air. "I got your letter," he said. "The one you never meant to send."
Eva's brow furrowed.
"I burned those years ago."
Nathan stepped closer. "I know. But your sister kept one.
Hidden in an old music box. She gave it to me last month,
after she died."
Silence fell. The kind that chokes. The kind that wraps around grief and pulls old wounds wide open. "I never believed them," he whispered. "They told me you lost the baby, that you had gone mad, that you left town to escape the shame."
Eva's hands trembled. Her voice cracked.
"They lied to all of us." Nathan's eyes filled.
"I should have fought harder.
I should have found you.
But I was young, cowardly.
And when they showed me a fake grave, with our daughter's name on it,
I broke."
Lila shifted in her seat,
turned her head
toward the trembling sound in his voice.
And then,
as if drawn by instinct, she slowly stood. Nathan fell to his knees. "I do not deserve to even speak her name."
He choked.
"But I swear to you, I never stopped seeing her in my dreams." Eva moved slowly to Lila, wrapped her arms around her,
shielded her.
"She does not know you," she said, "and I will not let anyone hurt her again."
I stepped forward.
"There is a lot to explain," I said carefully, "but this is not the moment
to settle old guilt. It is the moment
to protect the girl. We all failed."
Anya stood up too, her presence silent, but powerful.
Nathan looked up at me, his face hollowed by truth.
"And you?" he asked. I nodded. I raised her.
Not perfectly, but with every piece of my soul.
He looked back at Lila, her head slightly tilted,
her fingers twitching near her side, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "I do not want to take her. I just want to know her."
Eva's breath caught. "No," she said. "Not yet.
Not like this." Nathan nodded slowly.
Ashamed. Understanding. He turned toward the door, but paused.
"If she ever asks about me,
tell her I sang to her once, when she was in your arms, on a summer night,
before they tore everything apart."
Then he left.
The door shut softly behind him.
No slam. No drama.
Just the quiet ache of too late. Eva collapsed into the chair beside her daughter.
And Lila,
as if sensing the weight that had just lifted and left something tender in its place,
reached out, touched her mother's cheek,
and whispered,
"Sing." Eva broke. But this time, not from pain, from healing. She began to hum.
The same lullaby Anya once sang, the one Lila always smiled to. And for the first time, in a long, broken, beautiful while, we were not a shattered past. We were a beginning.
But far away, beyond the coastline, a man stood alone,
watching the lights in the bookstore flicker, holding something in his pocket.
A photo,
torn at the edges, with a baby wrapped in a blanket, marked with the name Lila.
And in the dark,
he made a silent promise.
Weeks passed.
The wind no longer howled through my house like a ghost. The rooms were no longer filled with quiet ache and sterile silence.
Instead, there was warmth.
There was music. There was laughter. Lila began to speak more. Not in full sentences yet, but in bursts of joy, and always in the presence of her mother,
whose embrace
now held every broken piece that time had scattered.
Eva stayed with us, at first uncertain, cautious.
But then, day by day,
We began to heal. Together. Anya. Quiet, wise, constant.
she remained our anchor.
More than a maid. More than a nurse.
She was a protector of truth.
A guardian of the past. And now, a part of our future.
As for Nathan, he never came back. He sent no letters.
Left no contact.
Just that silent promise under a moonlit sky.
And somehow, that was enough.
Because this story was never about reclaiming ownership. It was about returning light to the child who had lived too long in shadows not of her own making. One afternoon, I found myself watching Lila and Eva
In the garden.
She was running now. Yes, running. With careful steps and a mother's voice guiding her. I sat there,
Hands folded. Heart full.
knowing that my role in her life was no longer defined by blood.
But by love. By presence. By sacrifice.
I had spent years building empires, skyscrapers that pierced clouds, deals that shook economies, a name that echoed in boardrooms. But the greatest legacy I would leave
Was in that garden.
in that girl's smile, and in the forgiveness that built something stronger than wealth.
Family. Moral lesson.
Life has a cruel way of hiding truth behind silence.
But love.
Love always finds a voice. In a world obsessed with power, with titles and possessions, the true victories lie in healing what is broken, in owning your failures, and in choosing love, even when it costs you your pride.
Do not measure your life
By what you build with your hands, but by what you mend with your heart.
because sometimes the richest people
Are not the ones who own everything, but the ones who dare to give it all away, for the sake of one child's smile. And that makes you a billionaire in the truest sense. Thank you for taking the time to experience this heartfelt story. If it touched your heart, please share it with others, leave a comment below, and remind someone today, you are never alone.